Before Jimmy Carter became president, he was a peanut farmer. What business was our recent president and vice president engaged in before they took office? It wasn't peanut farming.
Of course, President Bush is a Texas oil man. It was Texas Oil that put him into office, and there's no way he can ever pass legislation that will seriously harm the oil, the petroleum industry.
According to the Center for Public Integrity, the oil industry spent more than $420 million between 1998 and 2004 funding politicians and political parties. ExxonMobil came in first, giving $60 million. Chevron Texaco gave $40 million, and BP gave $30 million. This really begs the question, is our government for sale? Several months before 9/11, Vice President Dick Cheney held 40 secret meetings with the heads of major oil companies.
In those meetings, it was obvious that the oil companies were writing energy policy for our country.
Documents pertaining to Cheney's meetings, released through the Freedom of Information Act, were purposefully blanked out. However, the Justice Department released maps from the meetings that showed the oil companies discussed Iraqi oil pipelines, oil refineries, and oil fields. Iraq had the second largest oil reserves in the world. The maps were dated March 2001, 6 months before 9/11.
When we tried to swear them to an oath, the Republican majority refused to have them take the oath. It was outrageous.
We look forward to questions. Senator Cantwell?
Mr. Chairman, I would like the committee to vote on whether we swear
There will
in.
be no vote. That's not in order at all. It's the decision of the chairman, and I have made that decision.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we swear in the witnesses.
And I rule that out of order.
I second the motion.
Thank you very much. That's the last we're going to hear about that because it's out of order.
Mr. Chairman, if a senator makes this request and there's a second, why wouldn't we have a vote on that?
Because you can't vote to put in the rules something's not there.
Here they were preparing the country for a disaster that we now see upon us, and they denied that they were there.
Did your company or any representatives in your companies participate in Vice President Cheney's Energy Task Force in 2001? The meeting?
No.
Sir?
No. We did not, no.
The guy that made sure the oil executives were not under oath is Senator Ted Stevens from the great oil state of Alaska. He was later indicted for accepting undisclosed gifts from oil companies. Viking Grill, $5,000. 1999 Land Rover, $50,000. Extensive home renovations, $250,000. Owning your own senator from Alaska? Priceless.
The Washington Post published a list of the attendees. It was a conspiracy, and the American public is paying a price for that now.
If we think about the way we felt after September 11th and why that event had the power that it had, there wasn't a story to explain that event. When we lose our story, when we lose our sense of where we are in time and space, we become childlike, regressed. That's what happens in a state of shock. And you are very inclined to believe in strong father-like figures who claim that they have the story, that they have it all figured out. And so if we think about, what happened after September 11th when we lost our story, the eagerness of the Bush administration was so acute in planting a new story immediately, and this new story was called the War on Terror.
Suddenly on September 12th, we have a war meeting in the White House where you have Paul Wolfowitz, Deputy Secretary of Defense, saying, we got to take out Iraq. Paul Wolfowitz said in an interview with Vanity Fair magazine, we just had to pick an issue to sell this case to the American public, and the issue we picked was WMD.
The natural impulse after September 11th was for people to try to turn to each other to reorient themselves. And that's how you get out of shock, is you fill in the blanks.
The nexus.
when I was a little boy, I went to Europe with my father, to Czechoslovakia, to Poland, to Greece and Italy and Germany and France. And everywhere we went, we were met by vast crowds of people, hundreds of thousands of people, who came out on the street because they wanted to be near an American politician, because they loved our country. And this wasn't just because my father had a brother who was martyred 4 years before. Hundreds of thousands of people, they were starved for American leadership. They were hungry for our moral authority. They proudly named their streets after our presidents, Washington and Jefferson and Lincoln and Roosevelt and Kennedy. And I remember the day after 9/11, when the headline on the biggest newspaper in France, Le Monde, was, "We're all Americans now." And for 3 weeks after 9/11, tens of thousands of Muslim people in Tehran came out onto the streets to have spontaneous candlelight vigils, to express their solidarity, their sympathy, their love for the United States of America. We were the most beloved nation on the face of the planet. And it took 230 years of disciplined, restrained, visionary leadership by Republican and Democratic presidents to build up those vast reservoirs of public adoration for the United States and for our values. Through monumental arrogance and incompetence, these oil slaves in the White House have drained those reservoirs dry. And, to me, that is the bitterest pill to swallow, because I saw in the faces of those crowds when I was a little boy the hope for leadership from the United States, not just to do good things for our country, but to do great things for all of humanity. Abraham Lincoln said that America is a great nation because we are a good nation. And he said if we ever stop being a good nation, we'll quickly lose our greatness as well. Because of our addiction to oil, we have lost that greatness because we lost our goodness. We put the oil in front of the Bill of Rights. This isn't a great nation just because it's a place where you can come and make a big pile for yourself and whoever dies with the most stuff wins. It's good because of the values that we're proud of that we pass down to our children.